And here we are. I'm here today with Ryan Murry. Ryan Murry is the longest American friend that I have. I met him all the way back in film school when both of us were on the wrong side of booze abuse. And we both come a long way. We lost touch. And by the time we reconnected not too long ago, we're both on the other side of that journey already, looking for different ways to grow ourselves and on a path of growth and fulfillment, as opposed to what we were using before to fill up that lack, that hole that was completely unresourceful. So it's great to find him here on the other side. And he's doing such amazing things. And as a matter of fact, this podcast right here, Disrupt Yourself, Innovate Your Life, is part of the In Touch Media Group family. Ryan is the founder of In Touch Media Group, which is a media group that right now is all about podcasts, but he's a media veteran, having worked for over 10 years in TV news, and he's now bringing a different source of news, a new source, and content that awakens, as opposed to bring fear and everything else that we see on TV. Ryan's here to disrupt the system and bring stuff to awaken, enlighten, and inspire people. So here we are, Ryan Murry. Thank you for joining me. There we go.
Thank you, Neto. We were out of touch for a long time, 15 years. 15 years we were out of touch, so it took me that long to get my act in shape, basically. And when I was searching for you, I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't find you. I know we connected in film school to do a lot of partying and, all that stuff to keep us, what we thought we should be doing at the time. But it took us a long time to reconnect. And it's interesting how we're almost on the same path. Very interesting how that worked out.
Absolutely. And I think I see it that way. And in my own journey, I talked to my wife because my wife met me when I was a mess, right? She had to have seen the seed to have been wanting to endure everything that we endured before I woke up and came to this side. So the same token, I feel like people, we saw something in each other that was deeper than the hubris, that was deeper than the mess we were in, because here we are now. A lot of people have also come out of the mess. A lot of people were not messy. We're not alcoholics back there. And still they're not in either of our lives. And here we are. And I want for you to share with me, because I know your story, because we are personal friends, but where you were prior to this awakening, right? What was it like walking in Ryan's shoes within that period where everything was foggy, and then the moment of disruption, the moment where you thought, here we go, let's wake up and do something different. This is not working.
Well, for me, life had a recipe, starting from when I was young to where I was supposed to go in life. Like my family and friends and schools telling you that you got to do good in school to get good grades. You got to play sports. You got to be active so you could go to a good college, so you could get that degree, that diploma, so you could find that good job, so you can make the money and buy the house, get married, have a family, in whatever order. It doesn't have to be any order, but that was the recipe that I was following. There was no individualism in that story, in my story. And I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. Maybe not to the best of my abilities, but I was doing it. And going to school, got married, got a good job, got the house, and my job was a news photographer, so I worked second shift. My wife worked first shift, Claudia. My days off were Thursday, Fridays. Hers was the weekend.
So
So
second shift, just so people know, second shift meaning you work in the evenings.
yes, or called swing shift. I would go in at 2:30. I would leave the house at 2 and get home at midnight. So I didn't see Claudia during those days until my days off, which were Thursday, Friday, which would basically be half days for her. Anyways, what I'm getting at is that was my routine. It was that for eight years, and there was a lot of stuff going on. So at first, I liked the job. Then eventually, I fell out of touch with it. I didn't think it was me anymore. But it never stopped me from changing jobs. I drank alcohol. I had been drinking alcohol for quite some time, and that kept me pretty much numb. It kept me docile. Kept that voice inside of my head for getting louder and louder and telling me, Ryan, you need to do something. This is not the path you're supposed to be on. So, anyways, that was the mix. And eventually, Claudia and I, as mostly every couple wants to do, they want to have kids. So we we tried and tried, and it took us. We had a couple miscarriages in our first trimester, and then finally we conceived Adriana. And unfortunately, in the third trimester, 34 weeks in, she died unexpectedly. And at that point, I was unequipped to handle such a shock because that wasn't supposed to happen to me. Life never prepares you for losing a child. And I just kept going on after we had a funeral because we had a baby. It was a fully formed child, 34 weeks. We had a funeral, and I just kept doing what I knew how to do, was drink and not think of anything else. Claudia, I don't know, she was handling it probably. I speaking on behalf of her, the same, keeping it deep down inside. But when that happened, it shook me so hard that I started to question myself, who I was, where I was going, what I'm doing, why I'm here, basically. Because up until that point, everything that I was doing was supposed to get me to a family, the next transition in my life. And it didn't happen. So obviously, in my thoughts, something was wrong, something was off. And that just kept in the back of my mind. It was just in the back of my mind for up to a year afterwards, where I ran across a nonprofit that I volunteered for that I normally wouldn't have, but it was a prompting inside of me that came from my heart that allowed me to step outside my comfort zone and volunteer for it.
And at this time, you're still mourning, you're still numb, you're still in autopilot, you're still drinking, correct?
Yeah,
All of
still
that's still
numb,
happening.
still on autopilot, doing the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day, just repeating it and gradually getting angry at myself for not doing anything about it. And that, yeah, angry at myself because I knew that it was my decision to make, not anyone else's, to change my life. I had a moment where I thought by changing jobs, I start looking for another job, that it would solve my issues. And that moment was, how much more money would it take for me to feel happy, fulfilled, meaning to have purpose? And I was having this conversation with myself. 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 more dollars a year. And I was like, no, no, no. Okay, $20,000 more a year, I wouldn't feel happy. Okay. And I'm actually having this conversation with myself. So I just go big. I go, what if someone gave me $1 million that I wouldn't have to technically have a job to make money, but I had to do something that I wanted to do that fulfilled me. And I couldn't answer that. I couldn't take that $1 million, which stumped me because the reason I thought of a job was to make money to buy stuff to make me happy. And until that moment, I didn't realize that the problem lied inside and not where I was in my environment.
So that's I want to touch that because that's such a powerful moment that I don't know how many people get to do that by themselves. I had to have many more punches in the face to wake up, to have at least that big of a heart and self-awareness and really sense of self to sit, I don't know where you are, but to sit within yourself and ask those questions. And then to see, right, as you were telling us here, to see, as you were telling me, that money wasn't the issue. Buying more stuff to make you happy wasn't going to happen. Happiness wasn't going to come from all these other places. And if you had the money and you had to do something that you like to do, what was the answer to that?
I didn't know.
Wow.
I didn't know who. So basically meant I didn't know myself. I didn't know who I was supposed to be, where I was going. And it was quite a shock because there was a lot of time. I don't think now, I look back, I don't consider it wasted because I needed to go through all that to get where I am today. But there was a lot of time thrown away.
And after that answer, that prompt, that I consider those moments magical, even though like you're describing as absolutely time thrown away, but not wasted, right? Because those roots eventually help you if you are able, when we come to the moment of impact, if we're able to change, everything else that came before can be a premise for a new us, right? That's the idea of the show. You don't throw everything away. We disrupt and innovate. We're still, all of that helps inform us what we need to do over here. So then, with that powerful answer that is a no answer, but it's powerful because it shakes you. Please continue.
Well, I stopped looking for a job, and the one job that I was applying for, thank God I didn't get it. I wasn't chosen for it. Now looking back, it was supposed to be that way. But I knew I had to find myself. I knew I had to find out who I was. And all the sources of information coming in that at the time I was getting was through mainstream sources like television, the radio, not even books, because I wasn't even gone down. I didn't like to read at that point because I was too distracted. I had too much shit going on in my head to sit down for a while. But I did like listening to podcasts, and podcasts toward my hobby. So it was not really, the medium was not there for information. It was more for entertainment. So I remember one day on my way to work, texting and driving, I looked for a podcast, a motivational podcast. One popped up, and it was a guy, Sam Crowley, make every day your Saturday, which basically meant that feeling that we get on Saturday, we could have it every single day, which at first I thought, whatever. Yeah, right. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know my life, what I'm doing. But I listened to it almost every day and sometimes twice a day. And it took a while for it to seep in, but it started me down a road of self-reflection. And I believe that's where the key lies, is turning inside and getting through the layers that we pile on top of ourselves to hide from who we're supposed to be. And that discovery, because I believe it's inside of each one of us. And it's just waiting to come out, if it ever comes out, if we give it the opportunity to come out. So that started my self-discovery, personal development, the term. looking into myself and starting to tear away the layers of crap that had stored on top of me at that moment, till that point.
We're still drinking here, or not anymore?
Yeah, what year was that? Uh,
Sorry. I just want to contextualize with
yeah.
all the other clutches that we always carry,
Okay. Okay.
right?
So,
Because you're talking about getting rid of layers. So I
yeah.
want to understand the
Gotcha.
disruption. How are they occurring?
So let me jump back. So after Adriana's death, we waited a few years and tried it again, tried to get pregnant again. We had to do fertility treatments. Thank God we got pregnant again with Andrew. The doctors discovered what the condition was that um, caused Adriana's death. And Andrew was born healthy, um, healthy boy, great kid sometimes.
One of
And
my best I'm going to interrupt,
yeah,
sorry, because I need to do a shout out. One of my best friends, my main man, I love this little boy. He's super special because he has great parents.
thank you. I'll tell him that. Thank you. No. I was still drinking though, still drinking at when he was born, but the voice in my head, the voice in my head was getting louder. And it had been there a while. It got louder and louder until a year after he was born. He was a little over 1. I decided to quit drinking finally. I had to get angry at myself again to make that decision and keep to it. So it was February 2015. I quit that crutch, and best thing I ever did. It took me a whole year I call it a hangover year because it took me a year to unwind from learning how to not deal with issues in myself while not drinking, while not having that there. It took me a whole year. And it was it was a hard year. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to, every time I was at a social gathering where I knew I was drinking, I was like thinking it would be better if I had a buzz, I'd be more comfortable. But I got through that year. It took me a little over a year. And then it was that about 3 to 4 months afterwards when I started looking for a job. And then I had that $1 million moment. And then I found the podcast on self-discovery. And that's when I started looking into myself and started asking the questions. So that layer had been taken away, and I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't peel that big layer off. No doubt.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to understand, and for people to understand, right? As we get rid of more and more of the crutches,
Mm-hmm.
start
Mm-hmm.
discovering more and more of ourselves, and we're receptive to Sam Crowley, and every day is a Saturday.
Absolutely. There's no way I could have changed to be where I am now with the old Ryan. There's no way. I'd be in the same place, probably worse. And I don't like to think of it. There's no way I could be
Right.
where I am being the old person.
So we're here now, and we're there with Sam Crowley. Every day is a Saturday, sometimes twice on the same day. 2 Saturdays a day you're having. And then?
Well, I just kept listening to him, and I trying to think of the timeline here, but I got so involved with who I was, like I started to realize who I was, who I am, being like the job that I was doing. I was a mainstream news photographer, putting crap out on the air, death, most of the time death, tragedy, stuff that really is not inspirational at all. And it was getting to me. I didn't want to do it anymore. It was starting to make me sick. And I was part of the problem, basically. So I still like listening to podcasts and decided I wanted to start my own podcast. I knew there was great people out there, great organizations in my area that didn't get the press that they needed. And I wanted them to have a platform, some time to relay their message and their vision. And I started the podcast just kind of knowing just basics and then just jumping into it. and it's been a weekly show for over a year now, and it's really helped me transform and got me on the path where I am now.
So you have In Touch Media Group, and your podcast is called In Touch Valley Talk. On that moment where you have no, because I know, because you mentioned briefly here, but you told me before, you had no skill, no technical skill really of an audio engineer and so forth. You learned everything in order to build yourself into this person, which is a great message to relay, right? I want to become that person. Even the lack of skills is not going to keep me from doing that. Let me go do it and learn. But I want to know about the insight, because it's a brilliant insight of separating the name of the podcast and the name of a group already. You were already thinking with a vision. Mm-hmm. I don't know how clear you were, but it was there. You were clear. Yeah, but you had some. You had to have some.
Yeah, maybe it was the inner Ryan speaking out when I when I set up the framework of the show and set up the website. Media group, at the time I didn't know really what that meant, but I did know it gave me opportunity for growth. I didn't know what that growth was, but by calling it a group, it allowed other sources to be part of my mission. And since then it's transformed into a group.
I mean, I'm smiling here because I think it's brilliant. I mean, you have this unresolved, not fully formed idea, but you jump in. Unlike a lot of people, the message of this show is you get an idea, don't sit on it, execute it, you will change you. And you executed on it. You executed on the idea. And not only that, you threw a bar that you had yet to clear called Media Group. And you're like, let me just take care of In Touch Valley Talk. So that's over there. This is part of that.
Yeah. And I didn't really know what that meant or did anything with the media group part. It was just there as the basically as the website name, intouchmediagroup.net was just there, and that's where I uploaded my show. But getting back to starting without being ready to start, it came to a point where I was again upset with myself because it was my decision that I was doing the work that I was doing. I no longer saw it as a means of support, financially speaking, but it was also enabling me to be keeping me as the old Ryan. So once again, for me, what gets me going is that I had to get angry. I'm not an angry person. I'm not a mad person. I don't hold grudges. But I do get upset at myself because I know there's no one else to blame but myself. So once I had that idea of the podcast, starting a podcast, I just jumped in and I figure it's either gonna work or it's not. If it doesn't work, then I move on to something else. I don't mess around with it. And it worked. I became more closer to the individual who I am, and it allowed me to express myself through the interviews that I have conducted. But if I was just going to think about it forever on the couch, it wasn't going to happen, and I'd still be in the same situation. So I had to take a step. I had to do something. Absolutely, because I was sick and tired of myself, giving myself excuses why I am who I was at that point.
Gorgeous. I mean, brilliant analogy, metaphor, story for everybody. You get that idea, you get off the couch, you execute, you get the spark, you take it to the finish line, you go, you get it. And then you find out something about yourself along the way.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm around a group of people, someone, you could really see like, hey, you have this brilliant idea, you have something inside of you, you just want to shake them and go, hey, let's do it, because it'll, just do it, man. There's no perfect time. There's no, just go and do it.
Absolutely. So then you are with this organization that you said you stepped into to volunteer. You're doing
Yes.
the podcast and you're interviewing other organizations. What a great way to be around role models, to be around people that you can keep growing into
Hmm.
as you see these people, right?
Yeah.
There
There.
had to have been a component of that.
Mhm. Well, when I was living my life on autopilot and doing everything the same each day and drinking, I was the biggest player in the world, right? I knew everything. I I'm the superpower, whatever, my opinion matters. But when I started talking to organizations and getting their mission and being part of the Garden of Innocence, I realized it was a humbling experience that I was just playing a little part in a big picture. And it really brought me down off my tall ladder, off my high horse, to realize the world is a lot bigger than who I am and, my problems, which are not big problems when you look at the grand scheme of things. I put myself around people who are really leading with their heart and are truly there to help out others. And it's really inspiring to be around people like that.
So what was the connection with Garden of Innocence and what became your contribution with that group?
Well, the mission of the Garden of Innocence is that they provide dignified burials to deceased, abandoned, and unidentified babies. So if a baby is found somewhere in a county, like the parents or whoever left it and it's dead, or it was a stillborn at a hospital and the parents want to have nothing to do with it, that baby would go to the county that it's in and it'd be buried in a mass grave with, in Fresno County, up to 400 individuals. The cemetery is horrible looking and there's no name. It's just a number where they're buried. So what the garden does is they take those babies and they put them into a nice cemetery. The community's involved. It's all volunteer based. They say, like, we're going to have a Garden of Innocence ceremony October 28th. We have 5 babies, 4 boys, 1 girl. We don't know anything about them. We only know about their gender. So someone provides a name for the child and writes a poem, and they pass the urn, because we in Fresno County we cremate them. We pass them around. We call it a circle of love. The people of the community participate, handle the baby, which otherwise they wouldn't. Haven't had that love from their family, so the community's involved and they bury them. We give them a dignified burial with a name amongst other babies surrounded by love from the community. So yeah, immediately grabbed me for what happened with Adriana. So been doing it ever since. Excuse me.
Yes. So, sorry, I wanted to touch it because it's beautiful in such an unselfish way that most of us, when something like that shakes us and hurt us and wound us so deeply, we hide from it. Sometimes we double down on the alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm.
You found an organization and a purpose to link your wound to something, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe Adriana was cared for and loved all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
And these children, as you're describing, were not.
Mm-hmm.
So you now give them what you were able to give to your first child.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been with them for how long now?
2012.
So 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
How has your contribution and role in the organization grown as you have grown?
It has definitely changed. At first, I was on the sidelines doing video documentation because that's my skill at the time with the news. I would videotape it or tape it, not even tape, digitally, and edit something together and give it to the organization documenting their burials. And it was going that way till last year when I started on my journey, and I started putting together my website, In Touch Media Group, and I wanted to write in a who I was page, a documentary, a bio page on myself. And when I wrote that bio page, a lot of stuff came out that I didn't realize was inside of me. And when the bio page was complete, I sent it to Elisa Davey, who's the founder, to let her know how much the garden played a role in my life. And immediately I got a call like an hour, 2 hours later from her manager, Enrique, who asked me to be part of the national team, national part of the garden because of my bio page, because of who I was, who I am. They knew my heart was in it from what was written, which at the time I didn't know until it came out. But me changing, at least aligning myself more with who I am, they felt that, and they reached out and wanted me to be part of their national team. So I'm with them as the media coordinator of the Garden of Innocence.
So you're part of the nonprofit, and there's something else that you do for them that I know you do for them that I would like for you to share, because you participate. I know you participate in these ceremonies.
Yes. On the guidance from my coach mentor, I'm not one to publicly speak or be in front of a camera. It's just not in my persona right now. But they've asked me a few times to speak in front of groups of people at their ceremonies. Very hard, very emotional. But I have gone up and told them my story, what the garden does for people. Not only does it bury babies, but it changes people's lives. It gives them closure. It helps them transform. And I've done that a few times. I've gotten responses, good response from people afterwards saying, thank you for speaking on behalf of me. Because people have gone through child loss and don't really have a channel to express it. So, yeah, it's putting myself out there and really being vulnerable.
So from newsroom, third banana, to community leader, to leading with your story, to sharing, going from your wounds to actually being champion for all the causes. And where do you see now the media group growing and taking you? Where are you taking it?
Yes, the media group, since I'm more have a clear vision of who I am and want to be the person that provides and shows and lets people in on the information that lets them become better individuals, and they could get that message through my podcast, In Touch Valley Talk. I'm searching for, I'm actually in production with one show, a couple ladies in town here, Lisa Caceres, a foster care agency, Angels of Grace, and Vicky Luna, the Lighthouse, the founder of Lighthouse Women's Recovery. offered them to help them build a show for themselves called Angels of the Light, because I truly believe these two women are wonderful. And we're building a show now, and I'm helping them, of course. They really don't have the time to do this, but I believe that they need to get their mission and vision out there. So this is where the group finally comes in. I offer my platform, my guidance to work in collaboration with me under In Touch Media Group to have their show line up with my show. And that's where it's going. If an organization, if a person has similar values into awakening people to their potential, they're now part of, I want them to be part of In Touch Media Group, as you know, because your show, Disrupt Yourself, Innovate Your Life, falls in that in that category of waking people up. Like, stop giving yourself excuses. Here's some tools, some mindset techniques. Come on in, come to the group, and start changing yourself and the people surrounding you.
Yes, absolutely. We are in touch. This show is In Touch Media Group, and that's why I wanted to hear a little bit, because your thing is content that awakens.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, rapid fire, or it can be as much time as you need with each of these. I want to know the 3 W's here of this story, which is your why, your wound, and your warrior stance. Why you're a champion for. So why is this important to you?
For my children, Andrew and Gabriel, I don't want them going off to look for a job just for money purposes. I believe everything we ever want is out there for us. So there's no need to do something that will not fulfill them. I want them to understand that they are born special, as with every other person out there. And I want people to stop giving themselves away for nothing and start investing in themselves, because we all have something purposeful and powerful inside of us waiting to come out.
And that comes from what wound? What is the thing that shook you, that makes you feel this way? And
I've seen, working in the media, seeing people dying, seeing tragedies happen at a spur of a moment, and life being lost in a matter of microseconds, and seeing the families left behind, that life is short. We don't have much time, and if we don't do something with ourselves, we're going to be old and be cynical about things. We're going to be upset with ourselves because we didn't allow ourselves to blossom into the flowers that we could be. And I guess the final straw was Adriana dying. That slapped me hard.
And your warrior stance, you're championing now for?
I'm championing for the people who are beat down in society, who are systemized, who are being brought up under values and laws and rules and what have you, that says you're nothing. I'm speaking for them. That, like I said, everyone is powerful. Everyone has a gift.
And where can we find Ryan Murry and all your shows?
InTouchMediaGroup.net. You can find my show there, In Touch Valley Talk Podcast, and the other shows that I'm working with and soon to come. And if you need to get in touch with me, it's Ryan at InTouchMediaGroup.net. Ryan,
I mean, it's been 17 years, as you said, or 15 years, 15
Mm-hmm.
years. Thank you for finding me. You found me, I think, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for reconnecting. Having the gift of your friendship means a lot to me. having the gift of what you shared with me today, and everybody who's going to listen to this is a gift. So my love to you, Andrew, Gabriel, Claudia. I'll be talking to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Neto. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share the message and hopefully give people something that they are powerful. They have it inside of them. Wake up. Wake up. Don't let life do it for you. Do it before life does it for you.
So that's it, folks. That is Ryan Murry, intouchmediagroup.net, In Touch Media Group Valley Talk on iTunes. He disrupted his life through the power of this idea, this really strong through line of creating a media group and a podcast with content that awakens. What is the idea that you have that you're sitting on today, right now? Don't sit on your couch, like he said. Go out, execute on it, transform your life, transform yourself into a bigger, better version of yourself. You have the power, the resources, and the potential within you. Thank you. We'll be back for more.